Country people actually salute. As soon as sabi am, the one na undaunted pidgin news place wey high. Na that so. Na me Tori Pikin so, aka Talk Am All. I don come again, make we match fire. Tori for today na for number 1 day for this week, we enter inside palava for Country Sunday and we see say e be waka fine for all place for Ambazonia. Commander Willie say reconstruct committee for Ambazonia they don ban am. Again, glad be dey plenty for we country people for Boyo as we motor enter wey e comot for Bamida for dem county. We country people for Bamida dey complain for the way Colonial Republic slave mayor dey take am for fix dem road. Member for buyer bread, yoko water, one time she don trade for Yatele. Dey look me fine because I dey come back nana so for Boku Tori fine. My country people, una come fine. We enter for palava Country Sunday wey be been at number 14 day for this month. We see how we country fashion for Ghost Town palava continue pampe. I say from Donga Matu County to Mezan County to Meme County, all side be been at Ghost Town level. Some we people don decide say dem go dey knack na dem damba for Country Sunday dem. Dem go dey do their damba and different kind of game dem. But for palava work, that one na no-go area. Make una even see as we people dey knack damba for home front for Country Sunday. Una see am. Commander Willie say reconstruct committee don be banned for Ambazonia. Country people, make una hear am o. If we boys dem catch you, no blame any man, blame yourself. Because today, me Tori Pikin, I don holla am and I don talk am. Make una even hear the voice as Commander Willie dey talk am.
Fellow Ambazonians, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today, August the 15th, Tuesday, 2023. I would thank all restorational forces for the home front, all the restorational forces for the 13 county and 61 LGA. We thank you for our work and our sacrifices. We bring important announcement for home front. As for the march for Boya, yes, restorational forces for home front. We go shake no day. I say shake no day. We go woke up. They gonna know say we no vote mayor them for home front. They gonna know say the mayor them for home front. They operate illegal inside our territory, and as such, reconstruction committee for La Republic, it don't be banned inside Ambazonia. I say reconstruction committee where La Republic they don't make inside Ambazonia, it don't be banned. Reconstruction committee, it don't be banned. Anybody who go participate for reconstruction committee, may be sure they will reach you for skin. Anybody who go participate for reconstruction committee, make it be aware and make it be sure say we will reach you for skin. When I don't gang on ourselves, La Republic, when I don't gang on ourselves, when I do reconstruction for inside Ambazonia. Avocado destroy our houses, may will be homeless. Avocado destroy our houses, may will be homeless. So we no go leave and make anybody join any reconstruction committee, don't be banned in Ambazonia. If you do reconstruction, you do also at your own risk. Anything you see, maybe take up. Those there for my and clean and clear. Anybody where you go do reconstruction for inside Manu, if you be a committee member for reconstruction, your property go be relocated inside water. I say your property go for inside Manu River. If you go join any committee for reconstruct anything inside Manu, your property go be inside Manu River, and you inside you go be inside water, you go drink water. Any person inside Manu where you go do reconstruction for inside Manu, you go show you if you don't construct up. Where you go for reconstruct up. I say any Manu where anybody reconstruction manual. You go show us what if you don't construct them and what if you can't reconstruct them. The way to wise, correct? We know the warn you when you try, you go see them. And the mayor for manual, if you colonial mayor, you know go for before this.
Make all man here fine. Because if we boys then see you, then go first reconstruct na you. Again for number 12 day for this moon, Glad be dey plenty pipu for northwest. Dem glad because motor wey e enter for Bamenda manage for waka sotey enter reach dem for their county after 2 months wey no motor no dey pass. Whether na for enter or comot, nothing. With strong ARF fighters don block the road say no motor no go enter or comot from Bamenda to Boyo County.
The other motor is very very
No. Finally, after many months, Jesus.
Dem block am for more than 2 months. And na palava for security wey we voices dem block dat road. So e no be being a biscuit say we pipu go see motor after 2 months for dat side for Boyo County. Person get heart like im boma for pass for dat road after dem don block am. Na only bush road wey we pipu be pass am, and na only Benz skin wey you go fit use am wey e go carry you enter or comot. For now, Bamenda and Benue and Kambendu road still dey block patapata. We pipu from Bamenda show their vex for the kind of way wey Republic slave mayor dey fix their road for city. Colonial Republic mayor dey use na normal ground for fix dem road. And now wey rain don broke, all side na motor e flop. All place don spoil. Motor no fit pass. Even sef na Benz skin, e no fit try am. Dis bad work so na 3 colonial council for Mezan County join do am with the Bamenda Colonial Council too. E be join dey. Na Bamenda Council be the check whether the work are fine. First of all, for 2021, before they wan start dis work, dem scatter all we pipu their house dem. Dem say they wan make road make e be for day so dat thing dem go dey waka fine. So na here we pipu dey ask am say who side the tar road dey? Dem wan see the road wey e make am Republic governor chakara dem house. Dat one no dey even worry sef. Wetin dey worry me now na say we pipu dey complain but the work for the road still dey go daso. Dem dey work for the road all kind of way wey e go still spoil nana so. Well, Republic, una no go fit just do one thing shock all we. I don talk my own finish for here. I go leave una for Undaunted come be dem Oni and Star wey go come tori una for big book kind of way. Make una remain fine. I don go me.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. In-house slave coordinator of the Bamenda Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration DDR Center reacting to the grumbling of the ex-fighters over staying at the center, says they should not be in a hurry to leave the center. The question is, what are they doing there? What else could he have said, given that the colonial regime is not keeping to the promise of reintegration? Well, how can some Amazonian youths fall into the trap of believing the fake DDR center story told by the same colonial La Republic government that has never kept any promise made to Amazonia? Do we go back to history where they made the promise of the ring road, the one promised to the peoples of Amazonia since 1985, over 4 decades after. Well, our republic, known for only sapping Amazonian resources, has once again been in the debate of who owns southern Cameroon's Bakassi. We'll have our amazing guests throw some light on this topic amongst other interesting reports of today. But before we get into that and the full briefings of Undaunted tonight, we'll have the prime headlines.
Right, here are the prime headlines for today. Health risks is on the increase due to death piles at popular road junctions in Amazonia. DDR centers a wrong destination for Ambazonians because the coordinator of Bamenda Colonial DDR Center says his tenants should not be in a hurry to leave the center. We will be revisiting the Baliyonga massacre again, which happened on the 13th of April 2019. And of course, we have two important guests that will be treating some topics that will be of interest to you. You wouldn't want to miss us. On the African scene, Algeria has banned the movie Barbie as it promotes homosexuality and other Western deviances. Right? We have lots and lots of stories also from the African scene. And of course, on the foreign scene, we have the BRICS summit coming up in a jiffy. So many things are happening already. So many countries are trading without the dollar. Shifting trade dynamics in China. We'll be asking if China is losing advantage to nearshoring. Now let's get the news in detail.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real warhorse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's Position, The Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia, Pastor Victor Amba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics. with Pastor Commando, The Horizon, The Voice, Abiedo, and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
The inhabitants of Bamenda are at risk of an outbreak as a result of the increasing heaps of dirt at road junctions. The stench that these heaps of dirt emit is unbearable, yet the population is forced to bear it as they have no choice. To hustle for daily bread that is not easy to get, traders just sit by the garbage heaps all day long. Flies from these herds settle on ready to consume stuff, putting the health of the people at risk. The colonial stakeholders, with the mandate to keep the town clean, are doing nothing to remedy the situation. Well, on this health note, let's begin tonight's Undaunted. How are you doing, Steph?
Oh, very well, Amy. Good evening, Ambazonians. The Colonial La Republic authorities' hands-off waste management as heaps of dirt decorate major junctions in Bamenda, leaving the population at high health risk. The common structure at almost all the junctions in Bamenda is a heap of dirt. These heaps keep going every day as the Colonial Bamenda City Council responsible for the discarding of the waste has failed in this task. A section of the Bamenda food market around the area where trucks of fruits are offloaded has been colonized by a heap of dirt. The heap has not only occupied a part of the market, it has equally invaded a lane of the fish pond road, making circulation handicapped. It is the same situation at the Intarinkan market, where part of the road junction has been occupied by the ever growing heap of dirt beside the market.
Businessmen and women out in Tarinkan Market and Bamenda Food Market have braved the stench from the heap as they sit next to the heaps for the whole day doing business. The Bamenda city dwellers are to understand why the council is giving a blind eye to the health-threatening phenomenon in the markets and junctions in Bamenda. Hadn't been that I had somewhere else to sell my fruits, I could not have been here next to a heap of dirt and with the terrible smell that it produces. La Republic the Cameroon government is not doing well. They don't even care about the health danger we are exposed to. This was lamented from a fruit seller next to the heap of dirt at the Bamenda food market.
Moving on, the in-house slave coordinator of the Bamenda DDR Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center, reacting to the grumbling of the ex-fighters over staying at the center, says they should not be in a hurry to leave the center. What else could he have said, given that the colonial regime is not keeping to the promise of reintegrating them?
How can some Amazonian youths fall into the trap of believing the fake DDR center story told by the same colonial Republic to Cameroon's government that has never kept any promise and made to Amazonia? Where is the ring road promise to the people of Amazonia since 1985? Where is the Bamenda Municipal Stadium La Republic to Cameroon promise the people of Bamenda? How can energetic Ambazonians think that it is the promise of the DDR Center that La Republic to Cameroon will keep?
Well, Undaunted brought to you the disgruntlement of ex Amazonian fighters of the fact that they were being deceived to join the Bamenda DDR Center. They lament that they were told that they will have just a brief stay at the DDR Center and be reintegrated into society. Yet they have been in the center for 3 years and counting, and the reintegration promise is not being fulfilled. Talking to the press, the in house slave Kum Henry, coordinator of the Bamenda Disarmament, Demobilization, and Reintegration Center (DDR), said that the occupants of his center have no reason to be in a hurry to leave.
Well, he added that the ex fighters are living a normal life at the center. He says, how can someone be said to be having a normal life where he or she has no liberty? With all identification documents confiscated, they are not different from prisoners. While political analysts have condemned the creation when a war is still going on, that a center like the DDR Center is a post war institution.
The Amazonian War of Independence, which started as a process of defending the peoples of Amazonia, but unfortunately turned into a full fledged war after President Bia declared war on the peace loving people of Amazonia. We'll go back into history of some massacres that instigated this war, starting with that of the Baliyonga massacre of 1319, where 11 were killed and incinerated. The dictator showed the global noise making about inclusive talks is only wishful thinking with this act. Like the previous killings and burnings in the same village on November 11, 2018, the same French appointed governor repeated the same barbarism with no remorse on 13th April 2019.
More than 13 youths were again killed and incarcerated by the French Cameroon Huncho militias of Paul Biya in Bali Younger. Well, one wonders how a government with such record should be trusted and respected by the victim's family. Well, I'm sure the world is still watching.
That's not all. Let's visit the killing and dumping in Manu and Ikiliwindi, southern zone of the British Southern Cameroon. All genocidal tactics have been used by French Cameroon on the minority English speaking peoples of the British Southern Cameroon. In these cases, the innocent victims were killed and dumped in the bushes in map discovered only on the 4th of April 2019.
And the other at Ikeliwendi on the 12th of April 2019, they were later found at an advanced stage of decomposition. No words from the French Cameroon militias and their leaders. One victim in Mayu was simply tied to a tree and allowed to rot. All right. I'm sure with that, you already know that you need to draft. Saturday comes another draft. You need to draft, draft, draft like never before. The killings won't stop. But then we have two great minds in the studio, and we are very delighted to have them in the studio. We have Barrister Tim Basia in the studio, and of course, we have SOS Zama in the studio as well. So, we would want to ensure that our sounds are correctly connected so that we can start the discussion in earnest. All right. A great evening to you, Barrister Team. Great evening to you.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me once more. I enjoy your program. Do others do so. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll call you. Maybe I'll join this boys.
The second sound,
All right.
I think it's SOS Zama sound. All right, yes, and we have him here. All right, SOS Zama, we are delighted to have you in the studio. You're welcome. Now, we would like you to explain the technicalities involved with the temporary protective status granted citizens of the Cameroon's residents in the US. And it would interest you to know that there is an update on the United States Homeland Security website in this regard. Please permit me to read that. Cameroonians without legal status in the US can apply for temporary protected status, the TPS. TPS protects eligible Cameroonians from deportation and allows them to get work papers. It may also make them eligible for driver's license and gain access to certain other benefits like healthcare.
Well, this statement further reads about 11,700 Cameroonians in the US are eligible, less than 3,000 have applied. Deadline to apply is December 7th, 2023, less than 4 months. Applying ASAP is recommended because of major processing delays at USCIS. Well, if you notice, not up to 50% based on the allocation have applied for the TPS. The reasons why not many people have applied yet is still unknown. Perhaps they need more information on the subject matter of TPS. That is why we think a legal mind like you should explain further. What are the benefits and how do you think Ambazonians can profit from this initiative?
Can I call you back, Vivian? Yes. Can I call you back?
Barrister Tim, this question is addressed to you, sir.
Oh,
We need
I
legal
didn't know
minds
that.
on these to explain further what are the benefits for the Cameroons abroad.
Now, this is what people don't understand. The TPS, which is called Temporary Protected Status, what are they protecting you from? What status? It applies essentially to those who have exhausted all their appeals to stay in the United States for being illegally here, who have exhausted their process of asylum, and in short, who are on deportation. If you're on deportation, you have a protected status to stay longer because of the war back home. There's nowhere you are going to. You cannot deport you from here to die. And so it is not for anybody who just arrived now. Say, okay, I'm here, I don't have papers. No, you must have exhausted the application. You must be on deportation. That's why temporary protected status means. It is temporary. And I guess it is temporary because if the situation improves back home, you might still be deported when the situation improves because you have exhausted all the reasons for being here. They give you a driver license to work because they will not be feeding you. You can move. Just like those who come here as students are given social security numbers. So that's what it means. But why are people not applying? I can only guess, and I think my guess might be true. The problem is many people who are on deportation in the United States, for example, a good number of them just melt into the crowd. You don't see them. They disappear, and they're no longer identifiable. Yes, officially their name is there for deportation, but until they catch you, nobody will deport you. So they disappear into the population. And when the temporary protected status come out, I think they are afraid. If I show up now and register officially, oh, now they know where I am. And if the situation improves, they will deport me because I'm already now identifiable with a driver license, with an office where you work, with a residence where you live. And so people are reluctant to apply for it. The unfortunate thing about it is, to the best of my knowledge, the temporary protected status does not give you an opportunity to change your status to a legal resident of the United States, where you could go through that route and become a permanent resident, become a national. It doesn't give you that. It simply protects you from deportation. And again, it is temporary based on what happens back in your home of origin. It could take 5 years, it could take 10 years. Wars have been fought for decades. As long as the situation remains bad, nobody will deport you. But even if you remain in that status for 10 years, that will not make you an American. And again, I think people are afraid to come out because a good number of them have just disappeared into the population. And so the federal government does not have resources to go around California, go around Washington, D.C., combing houses to catch you. And so they forget about you. But if you get into a traffic offense, they pull out, they catch you there or something, any other offense, they identify you on the petition, you will go.
All right.
I think that's what
Yes.
it is.
And there's a whole lot. Yes, thank you so much, Barrister Tim. There's a whole lot we'll talk about. Even in terms of diplomacy, we'll still talk about this TPS. But before we get back to you, SOS Zama. Now, yesterday we reported about Bui. Like you already know, Bui and Ngokentuja, as it has been a zone of no return for Nigerian forces of occupation. Now, the resilience and bravery of the ARS has been sung throughout Amazonia, you know. Just yesterday, we brought you reports of Bui warriors under the command of Major General Tokandu, who set up an ambush on the terrorizing colonial forces, killing a total of six. Now, for a while, we have not had you, you know. We are making strides in diplomacy. Now, we want to know what is on ground or the ground game and the situation of the home front in general when it comes to self defense.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while. Thank you for our listeners. Um, we've had we really going strength to strength. As you can see, the numbers of soldiers who are fighting are increasing. The number of casualties for the enemy are increasing. Um, Bui and Goketunja are really points of no return for the Cameroon soldiers. And they go there, they have all these losses, and they keep coming. Um, the strategy is always going to be the same. We are defending homeland. We are trying to protect our people. We are still playing a little bit more defensive than offensive in these situations. And there are a lot more stuff that is going on the ground that we are not letting the cat out of the bag right now. But our soldiers on top of their game. Um, you're not hearing these people just randomly running in and out and killing people and running back out. When they go in, they don't come out. The numbers that go in don't come out the same numbers that went in. So soldiers are in top form, even though there are some differences between people, but we are all in this fight for the liberation of Amazonia. And there is no one person who is going to do this. We're going to do it as a community. We're going to do it as one people. And the drafts and all the contributions that the drafts has contributed to this fight, it's really showing on the ground, and it's showing in terms of material that's being used, in terms of techniques, and in terms of the different variety of equipment that's been deployed on the battlefield. We are really doing well, and I don't want our people to be concerned. We are not to worry right now. We are our guys and boys, girls are all on top of the game. And all the other areas seem to be quiet, but things are going on. They are all mobilizing, putting the enemy at bay, putting pressure on them in those localities to put pressure or reinforcement in Bui, and most of them don't go back. So we are doing well so far.
As we can see, SOS Zama, it is now very clear that the president and his team are making efforts to win the war diplomatically. Can you guarantee Amazonians, based on the situation on the ground, that we are ready to hold the ground? As in, it is no doubt that diplomatic negotiations must be done from this side of the strength. Are looking forward to some assurance from your office, you know. Can you guarantee us today that this is sustainable enough to go through this period?
We are holding the ground. We are holding the ground because if you look at the entirety of Amazonia, there is no government structure. There is no La Republic structures. If you go all the way to there's no structure in the end. There's no structure in Bui. There's no structure in Gakutunja. There's no structure in Bali. There's no structure in Batibo. they only can go in and out, run in with all the bulletproofs they can get. We are holding our ground. I don't think there's anything more than that. The enemy is venturing in and out. They don't stay, they run. Their municipalities are not governable. Their mayors, their governors. When is the last time you saw the governor of the so-called governor of Bamenda? When did you last see Lailaya Freak? Or when did you last see the other guy in Boya? Nobody sees them. They are all living in Douala and Bafusam. They've run away from their jobs because their jobs are pretty difficult jobs to perform at this time. They are just there for name. In most situations, they would have surrendered, but they can't surrender because they have a force behind them, but they cannot stand out. They cannot stand the fight. These people, all of them, you can go to Lebielen, there's no administrator there. Even in Menji, there's none of them there. So I don't know when people say, when are you guys going to hold the ground and take the ground? And we don't have to take it because we already always owned it. We are just trying to get rid of the invading troops that came into Ambazonia. And we have the ground. And the thing that was propagating their development or their encroachment into Amazonia was their administrative structures, and all those structures are just about crumbled.
Thank you so much, SOS Zama. It's obvious that the Amazonian Restoration Forces on the ground have already made it clear that they indeed own the ground and they don't have to reclaim it. But speaking of the diplomatic aspect of the Amazonian War of Liberation and the fact that is to an added advantage to Amazonians and both Cameroons in the United States. We want to understand particularly and diplomatically for Amazonians, what does the TPS mean? We understand, this is to Barrister Team in base here. We understand that President Sacco just made a tweet about this a few days ago. He's also making a lot of diplomatic moves towards the United States government in line with the TPS. What does the TPS signify diplomatically to the nation of Ambazonia?
Well, I thought I've answered the question TPS, temporary protected status, which I said, if you permit me to repeat it, you are being protected from what? Simply spoken, you are being protected from deportation. So all those people who are on deportation roll go into the TPS. And I explained that it's temporary because it's not the first time they give it. They give it to people who are due to deportation, but who, back home where they're supposed to be deported to, there's war. And just as a human gesture, they will not deport you from a safe zone to a zone where you go and die. And again, I said, it can remain as long as 10 years, 15 years, or even more, depending upon the situation back home. But in principle, once the situation back home improves, you'll be deported. And I explained that the reason why people are not coming up, I think, is just my thought, is that most people who are on deportation, some, I know they are most, they mixed up into the population. And though they are on deportation, they are not deported because they cannot find them. The State Department is not going to hire people to go around the towns looking for people who are on deportation. Sometimes they will catch you if you commit a crime and the police come there, but you have to identify yourself. At that time, you will be deported. But for now, once you are in the population and you committed no crime, nobody is going to deport you. But again, understand that the TPS is not going to lead you to an American national, or it's not going to give you a green card. Now, because you have already exhausted all your application to get those documents. That's why you are on deportation.
Okay, so
And if that is
we
understood,
pretty much get this point. You've stated it before, and that is pretty clear about the TPS. Now, what we're asking, the fact that the United States have given those from both Cameroons the TPS, how does this impact the struggle? Does this have any impact on the struggle?
No, I don't think it has. We must remember this among ourselves. There are refugee seekers in this country who are Bamileke people, who are Douala people. But they didn't come to seek refugees in the fact that there was a war in Bafoussam or in Douala. No, they pretended to be us. And under the guise of Anglophone war, they sought asylum. Some of them got it, even under false pretense. Some of them did not get. But diplomatically, again, as we speak right now, the United States as a government has not recognized our status as a nation. So we are still under the umbrella of Cameroon, the bigger name called Cameroon, were by the United States definition part of it. And so, even they intended it to be only for Ambazonians, they would not have said, well, Ambazonia now, because to pronounce that name Ambazonia officially from the State Department means recognition diplomatically, which they have not yet done. Are they in the process of doing it? I think so. They are aware of our problem. And so, yes, some people will take advantage of what is not theirs. But for now, me and you cannot prevent them. For now, it is protected status. If somebody, a Francophone, sought to benefit from the war and failed, exhausted all the ladder of his application and failed, he or she will be on deportation. That will not affect you or me talking from Kumba or from Boya or from Yaoundé or from Manfe. So it doesn't affect us negatively now.
Right, so that's very good to know. Now let me get back to SOS Zama. Whenever I see you, I know that we have a whole lot of enforcement to do on the show. So please, Saturday we draft Donga Mountain County. Now, La Republic de Cameroon has been using Donga Mountain County as a passage to reach other parts of Amazon. Now, the enemy, knowing the strategic importance of the county, had earlier established their um, second largest military barrack in Amazonia. That's found in Nkambe County, if I'm correct. Now, from where they attack other counties like Bui, who also gives them a run for whatever they bring to the table, Ngokentuja as well, Boyo and Menchum. Now, the enemy equally uses proxies like Ngala, Gerald, Adamu, Edward. They're selected members of parliament and mayors like Abdul Bornu of Ndu and Shea Musamfo of Nkambe to build a group of traitors to misinform and disorientate our people. Well, quite recently, using their blacklegs, they came to Liu village in the local government area and removed Pamalamgo and shot him at close range. What are you expecting from DMC? Because we need to draft knowing that DMC is a place where the enemy uses to strategize, which has not been good. But though we have Buyen Gokentujer strategizing to win the battle, what can you say about this draft coming for DMC on Saturday?
I think every draft that we have, it's a crucial element of the war we have to fight. Each contribution goes a long way. The enemy has the deepest pockets from multinationals to ability to borrow from foreign governments to fight this war. We are depending on every individual who is able and willing to contribute towards this war. To understand that Amazonia is for everybody. It's not a few that's going to fight this war that's going to own Amazonia. The fight is for all of us. And for those who are sitting on the sideline or who have sat on the sideline for the last 7 years, we've pleaded, we've cried, we've seen all the killings of babies, mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, burning of hospitals, burning of palaces, burning of queen mothers. If that hasn't struck enough to those of you or some of us citizens who are sitting on the fence, well, we can continue. on this line of thought that there's no war, or I don't want to belong to a war. We're trying the best we can try, and anybody who contributes towards this fight is doing an enormous service to the state of Ambazonia. And Ndonga given that it's a gateway from the northern part of Adamawa, it's easier for La Republique to come through back flank of the fight. And with the help of the Fulanis and all the other elites in that area who are busy convoluting the story of the Ambazonian struggle and trying to betray people in order to be killed. So we are asking for all the contribution we can contribute so that we can build much more robust areas in that area, like it is like in Bui or Ndonga Mantum or in Lebialem or in a Umejok area. So we want to try to strive harder and harder, because those are the pocket areas, the back doors that the enemy uses to come from behind. The base in Gambe, which was established during the Bakassi War, it has always been a forward base for them. It has always been a staging base for them. After they come in from Bamenda, they stage just place those soldiers there. Yes, it's a big target, but yes, we will go there. We will reach there when we have to. But as it is, we have to start cleaning up our backyard and mending our fences and keeping it neat with all the contribution that we're gonna get, or we are planning to get from our contributors to this fight.
Right now, talking about contributors, we'll have something for them, but that's when we come back right after this short break. Just hold on first, please.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Republique du Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Donga Matung County.
One Prince Waters, the ambassador of young artists. Ahead, Mr. Folkway Rogers, National Woodwood President, Chilo Mapi, Jambo, Mitanko, Vera, Oyop Jaman, Charlie Boy and Longo and Longo, Oyop Jaman, Jambu, Watch, Nairobi, get the people, and then go. But you are not Jaman.
All right, you're welcome back from that short break. SOS Zama, we'll get back to you. But before that, we have this very important report on the Bakassi. It's interesting that we've brought this report several times, and we've even had Barrister Team talk about it severally, but an issue has resurfaced again on the Bakassi. Knowledge is not too much, so we'd like you to even expatiate further on the question of the ownership of the Bakassi Peninsula. We understand that we've been here to deal on the legalities of this topic, but more in-depth and categoric exposure would do some more good to the case of the Bakassi. But before we allow you explain in categoric terms who the legitimate owner of the Bakassi Peninsula actually is, we would like to go through an article published by activist Uchiba Nelson on his Facebook page.
Chiba titles his article, Who Owns Bakassi? And it reads, like the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, Bakassi Peninsula War also led to a lot of humanitarian casualties and ended in the Green Three Agreement. Just like any other war, unfortunately, neither Nigeria nor La Republic du Cameroon gained Bakassi. The peace agreement required both Nigeria and La Republic du Cameroon to retreat to their boundaries as achieved at independence. Nigeria achieved independence on the 1st of October 1960, and Bakassi, being in southern Cameroon, wasn't part of it. La Republic du Cameroon achieved independence on January 1st, 1960, and Bakassi in southern Cameroon wasn't part of it. Both Nigeria and La Republic of Cameroon are signatories to the African Union Constitutive Act, and Article 4B enjoins every African country to maintain respect for international boundaries as achieved on the date of their independence.
Well, elaborate article reads further that Bakassi, Southern Cameroons, was and has never been part of the independent state of Nigeria and La Republic du Cameroon. Therefore, as it stands today, August 15th, 2023, neither Nigeria nor La Republic du Cameroon have any sovereignty over Bakassi or the territory of the former Category BUN mandated trust territory of the Southern Cameroons under British administration. The International Court of Justice stated clearly in its judgment that Bakassi belongs to the Cameroon, and by implication, Bakassi belongs to the state of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, from which La Republic du Cameroon and the Federal Republic of Nigeria agreed to withdraw their occupation forces to within the limits of their international boundaries as obtained on the various dates of independence. He ends it by saying final. Now, with this concern, Barrister Team would like you to expatiate further on this issue. Who is the lawful owner of the Bakassi Peninsula from a legal perspective? I believe the people need to be enlightened. You may explain yourself based on the historicity, legality, and more.
Thank you once more for me to do this repetition that I've done many times before. See, for the purpose of this Bakassi thing, and for the purpose of this discussion, you forgive me, let us not start with Ambazonia. We're going to start with the British Southern Cameroon. And we'll start with the British Southern Cameroon. That is, we're going to go to history so that we'll understand better who owns Ambazonia, who owns Bakassi. You remember that in 1884, there was this scramble for Africa. And out of the Berlin Conference of 1884 was born a country called Cameroon, given known as a protectorate of Germany. And so officially, there was a German protectorate called Cameroon. That included Southern Cameroon, that we later on became. That included Ambazonia. That included Bakassi. It included Yaoundé. It included Garoua. So that was German Cameroon. But fast forward, we remember that German Cameroon ended in 1916 after the First World War. The main antagonist, the fighter that was being, the person was being fought there was Germany. And Germany was defeated by the League, by the combined forces of other countries. And as a result, they had to negotiate an end treaty to the war, the binding treaty that would bind Germany, bind any other person who participated. And so the war formally ended in 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles. At the Treaty of Versailles, it was agreed, the Treaty of Versailles said that what used to be German Cameroon, that included Douala, Yaoundé, Garoua, Boya, and all those places, had ceased to exist. They had taken that territory from the defeated German country. And so they took it. What did they do with it? The Treaty of Versailles also ended up with something they call the League of Nations. They created a League of Nations. And Cameroon, among other countries that were taken away from Germany, was placed under the League of Nations to manage. They didn't know what they were managing them for, but they were placed under the League of Nations to manage. But the League of Nations is the group of countries that were victorious in the war. It's not one country. So they say, okay, you manage this territory for us. And that Cameroon that used to be German Cameroon will be divided into two and placed as mandated territories of the League of Nations into two parts, not necessarily two equal parts, no, into two parts. One of the parts of the German Cameroon was to be administered by France. That part later on became what we call French Cameroon, what has materialized today to become the Republic of Cameroon. The other part of the League of Nations, mandated territory of Cameroon, was handed to the UK, to the United Kingdom. That is a part that would have later become British administered Cameroon as a whole. But something happened. Let us get this fact very, very clear. Something happened. In 1923, just 2 years after that, in January, 26th of June 1923, the British, who were given this part called British Administered Cameroon, passed an ordinance in council, what they call the order in council in London, in the House of Commons, which said that for administrative purposes only, they were going to divide their own trust, the unmandated territory of Cameroon, into two, to be administered from Nigeria, because Nigeria was the larger colony of the British. So, okay, we're dividing this mandated territory given to us into two, to be administered from Nigeria. That British administered mandated territory stretched from the Atlantic Ocean, that's the Bakassi area, right into Lake Chad. The farthest town up there was Yola. So they came from the ocean to Lake Chad. And that was the stretch of the land that was called British Administered Cameroon. But on June 23rd, as I've said, they came out to the United Nations and said, okay, we're dividing this thing into two for administrative purposes. We shall administer part of it from eastern Nigeria, because eastern Nigeria is a region. We administer part of it from eastern Nigeria, whose capital was Enugu. The other part, we shall administer from northern Nigeria as provinces, divided into 3 different provinces. But the whole northern region was our one region. But they administer as part of the northern region of Nigeria. A step back, the part that they administered from Enugu is the part that became known as British Southern Cameroons. The part that they administered from Kaduna in the north is the part that later became known publicly as British Northern Cameroon. Until you understand this fact very, very well, the British Southern Cameroon, which we today call Ambazonia, included Bakassi, which was part of the German Cameroon. So Bakassi became exclusively part of British Southern Cameroon that was renamed Ambazonia.
Barrister Mvesia, you know, the interesting thing is the fact that this issue of the Bakassi and its ownership will keep resurfacing with different and divergent views. But the good thing is we have people like you, legal minds, who knows the historicity of the geography and the legal aspect of it. You know everything about this kind of issues, and we have you here to reinforce the right education to actually make the audience know. If not, we might just be deflected by divergent views on this particular issue of the Bakassi. But you have pretty much elaborated once again the entirety of this Bakassi and its true ownership, who it belongs to, and it's an honor having news. We're happy to have you here. But with that, we've pretty much gained enough knowledge, and we thank you for your presence here today.
No, if you permit me,
Right,
to learn.
before we go, like I mentioned, such very important. SOS Zama, people have been drafting for a month plus now after the federal draft. Now, what are your words for those who are committed to ensuring that this struggle continues in this light? We all know those that have put in all of their acts together. And let me just read us here what the president once said about those who draft. Those who draft are, of course, putting their names in the sands of time. They would have something to tell their children about what they did for the struggle. I'm sure that you would also want to add some momentum to encourage people to turn out in their numbers on Saturday for the MC draft.
I
Yeah,
think I'll give a second to Dr. Barrister Mbesi. Let him finish that train of thought. Education is really what we need. And I think let him finish out, let him land, and we can go on that.
So if you let me land, if you take a few more minutes, people, I think the question will not come up again. The Bakassi I've said was part of the British Southern Cameroon that today has become Amazonia. But Bakassi, in essence, is inhabited by fishermen. The fishermen who are in Bakassi are essentially Nigerians. But the population is not makes the it's not what makes the territory, it's occupation. And so Bakassi, though occupied essentially by Nigerians, never ceased to be British Southern Cameroon. And I want to concretize this with this illustration. Fast forward when 1959 came, when the idea of a plebiscite was imposed on us. Resolution 1352 insisted that those people would take part in the plebiscite of 11 February 1961 must be British Southern Cameroonians on one hand and British Northern Cameroonians on the other. Remember that there are two plebiscites on the same day, answering the same question. But as far as Ambassador is concerned, they insisted that all people will vote in that plebiscite, deciding whether we want to join East Cameroon or want to go to Nigeria, must be British Southern Cameroonians that we can call today Ambazonia. And there was there were polling stations in Bakassi. People in Bakassi voted in the plebiscite. People at Bikoko, across Tiko, did not vote. People at Metazam and near Mundade, they didn't vote. People in Chang, near to Rebbe did not vote. So Bakassi is British Southern Cameroon. And fast forward, let me go to what has been worrying us. We are so disturbed with this ICJ thing and the Green Tree Agreement. You see, narrators make mistakes. The ICJ thing, that is the International Court of Justice, was brought by Cameroon against Nigeria. What was their basis for bringing the action? They claimed, and they were right, Nigeria had not just allowed the citizens to be there, they had come up and set up administration in Bakassi, claiming that they were in control, they were in possession, and therefore that made that country, that Bakassi, Nigeria. That's why Cameroon sued them at the Hague, that they should leave Bakassi because Bakassi is Cameroon. What was the basis of Yaoundé claiming that Bakassi is Cameroon. Their basis for claiming Bakassi was not less than the February 11th so-called plebiscite. Just like Nigeria laid claim to northern Cameroon because they had voted to join them. And so that was the basis of the case. And so the judgment, I've said many times before, I've read that judgment 1,000 times. That judgment does not anywhere, unless I'm making a mistake, if I make a mistake, let somebody present me the copy. That judgment does not say anywhere that Bakassi belongs to southern Cameroon. Now, it simply says Bakassi belongs to Cameroon. Because there were only two parties before the court. Southern Cameroon was not a party to the case. There was Nigeria and Cameroon. And so they wrote that Bakassi is Cameroon. Does that hurt us in any form or shape? No. Legally, it doesn't hurt us. Practically, it doesn't hurt us. When they said that, Nigeria continued to say, well, our people live there. What shall we do? They said, okay, let us look for a way to enforce the judgment of the ICJ of 2002 from the International Court of Justice. That's how the Green Tree Agreement came about. It is written there on top, the one I've read. I don't know whether there's another one. How to implement the ICJ decision. And in that Green Tree Agreement, I've heard this reputation, which I've asked people to show me the document other than the one I have. There's nothing written in the Green Tree Agreement that the party should withdraw to the borders of independence. There's nothing like that there, at least on the one I've seen. But this does not hurt us. As I've given the illustration, the plebiscite that Yaoundé is trying to depend on. The people of Metasm, just next door to Santa, did not vote. The people of Cham, next door to Libya, did not vote. The people of Bikoko, next to Tiko, did not vote. So that claim is frivolous. It has no meaning. I want to see when we successfully install our state. Yaoundé comes to say, well, we own Bakassi. Before we go there, we have border town, we have a cock. We know that a cock is just between Nigeria and Cameroon. Where does a cock belong to? Officially in the map of the country, a cock belongs to Cameroon. So to Manfe, because they are the one who are fighting them because they are claiming these things to belong to them. But does it mean that a cock belongs to them? No. A cock is not Cameroon. A cock is not Nigeria. A cock is Ambazonia. But the final thing will be when we successfully establish Ambazonia, recognized by different countries of the world, that question will become moot. The good advantage you have is Nigeria does not lay claim to it anymore, even though the people live there. In fact, the resolutions of the decision of the ICJ has been implemented in full up to 2008. It has been implemented in full. Nigeria has taken away its troops. They have taken away their ammunition. The thing said Nigeria should withdraw its troops from Bakassi because they don't have the right to be there. Again, Cameroon claims that they have a right because we're arguing against that plebiscite. We voted to join them. That's the argument. That's the argument of the United States. You had asked me a question, why did TPS thing, how does it affect us? That's the view for now of Great Britain, of any other country in the world, until they start to give us official recognition. There's no country without boundaries. When the US, for example, if they do recognize us today, they will be able to know where our geographical boundaries are. When they recognize Southern Sudan, which was a full-fledged part of Sudan, they were able to identify the boundaries of Southern Sudan from the boundaries of Sudan. So we don't need to multiply these arguments all the time. What they are saying of the ICJ, I've not seen it there. What they are saying of the Green Tree Agreement, I've not read it. But if someone has it, they should show it to me. Even if they were there, that does not underprivilege us in any form of argument, legal or practical. Because again, I don't fancy some people come from Yaoundé. When they come as removed from Cambe, because Cambe is not part of their territory, going to Bakassi to exploit oil there or to claim it. That would not be practically possible. That would be legally impossible because Bakassi has never been part of the Republic of Cameroon. The 1946 agreement, in fact, the 1919 agreement dividing German Cameroon into two, never contemplated their coming back together as a whole. It never. The 1946 agreement, which changed it from mandated territory to trust territory, was signed on the 13th of December 1946, after the United Nations Charter had been signed. The United Nations Charter provided for the colonization of trust territories to become independent. Article 76. They didn't contemplate decolonizing them to go back to what they used to be, to join whoever they wanted now. And so we're still governed by that charter today. It is under that charter that Cameroon purported to sue Nigeria. Because by signing up to the charter provides for the International Court of Justice. Chapter 9. This is the International Court of Justice. When you sign up to the United Nations Charter, you are bound by that. Why do we not go there and force them to recognize us? No. The charter only allows member states of the United Nations to sue at the ICJ. That's why we're not there. I could not have been there. There's a provision for going there. You have to pass through the Security Council. But before you pass through the Security Council, you must be a member of the thing in the first place. So let us not be disturbed let us stop worrying ourselves. Let us focus on the war, as Secretary Zama said, and our act to his thing. Yes, Donga Mountain may be there, but for me, they're not everywhere. Even if we have only 5 fighters still left there, those 5 fighters need our support. Let us draft, notwithstanding whether there's a black leg or no black leg, because they have to pay the price of the occupation. And the only way we can make them, you and me can make them pay the price of the occupation is to draft. And give the few willing ones that we still have to challenge them. And that will end all that nonsense. I think I'm clear enough today.
All right, thank you so much for also learning your thoughts as regards to draft. All right, thank you so much. You actually expatiated and made it even more elaborate. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. All right, SOS Zama, you can continue from the draft and where Barrister team stopped.
Yes, I think we can't afford to be ignorant when it comes to the legalities of why we are fighting this war. That's why I let Barrister Mbesi to push forward with what the conclusion that he came to. But well, we are drafting again for Nongamentum this weekend. We are still pleading. We are asking for every Amazonian, no matter where you are, sacrifice a little, give up a little comfort in exchange for the suffering that our people are suffering. We've begged and we've cried, we've prodded people, we've poked them, we've insulted people, we've begged. This is the time where you have to show your humanity, because there's no essence of living if you cannot live for somebody else. We've always benefited from somebody living their life for us. Our parents, our neighbors, our teachers, our employers, name it. There are so many people that have led their lives for us. Look at the many people here who are sponsoring families back home, even those now that they don't even know. There are many people who are sponsoring refugees. They don't even have no relationship to those. There are many people who don't even have no lineage back in Amazonia right now, but they grew up there. They're turning back there. I know of Namibians who attended school during the Namibian War with South Africa and the apartheid years, who are contributing to this fight in Amazonia. So what's the reason for you as a son of the soil or a daughter of the soil or a father or a grandfather of the soil? What's your reason not to contribute to this fight? It just takes a little bit of your comfort. It may just take 2 or 3 beers a day. Some people drink 5, 6. Some people drink 783. Some people drink Hennessy's. Please sacrifice that for the weekend. and contribute towards this fight. And a little goes a long way. And we are going to be this, we are going to show what we can do with the little that we have. The enemy is running. The enemy is on their heels. They are losing equipment and men on a daily basis based on the little money that we have. All they are losing in a little bit of close to 10 billion franc on a monthly basis in Amazonia. I wish we had that kind of money on a monthly basis. This war would have ended a long time ago. But whatever we have, we are making the enemy run for their lives. And we are counting on every single person this Saturday to show up and contribute towards this fight. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, SOS Zama. Thank you so much, Barrister team. We look forward to having you both some other time, but especially on Saturday. And I'm sure that everyone has heard and learned a lot. You know, of course, what Undaunted is here for, to educate, not just to inform everyone that needs and wants to learn and wants to know more. All right. Of course, this is where we'll be drawing the curtains on today's tonight on Daunted. But before we go, we have a soft reminder for you about Saturday.
The World Draft Once More is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Amazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of La Republican War. The time is now to do just that.
We are enough, so let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It's time for Donga Matung County.
One Prince Waters, the ambassador of Donga Mato artists. Ahead, Mr. Folkway Rogers, National Recorder President, Chilo Mapi, Yamomi Tango, Vera, Oyok Jaman, Charlie Boy and Longo and Longo, Oyok Jaman.